from the University for the Creative Arts in the UK, and I am one of the partners in the STARTS ecosystem project, which is part of a larger community of STARTS projects, which is science, technology, and the arts. And I suppose you know much of that because you found your way here. We'll start recording now. So what we've been trying to do with these community sessions, because we have had a number of different kinds of sessions, of meetups, and the ones that we're branding WeSTART are really about sharing ideas and thoughts around collaboration. And in these community sessions in particular, we're focused on how to hear from you, not just from experts, but from you folks who are also experts in your own field and have much to share and contribute. So we really want to keep that sort of community spirit alive. And so today we have 3 different types of projects of people who wanted to share. And the theme this week, last time we sort of talked about how people manage and what people did last year in particular, and from the first lockdown, at least I would say for us, was it started in March, but more because we covered a lot of that early in the pandemic, but we were more interested sort of what has happened since last summer, last time. And this time the focus is much more like future focus, future looking, and what are people planning, thinking of, concocting, dreaming up for new collaborations and new ways of working together, let's say hopefully post-pandemic, or perhaps maybe more realistically living with the ongoing COVID in our lives, but the really exciting things that you are planning and hatching at the moment. So we wanted to start with a project called SenseWare. And I'm just going to read a little blurb about the folks who are going to present. It's Emanuela Corti and Ivan Parati, Italian multidisciplinary designers, researchers, social entrepreneurs, and innovators living in the United Arab Emirates and teaching Ajman University in the College of Architecture, Art and Design. So what they've said here is that in 2012, they founded Caravan, a platform of dialogue across disciplines and professionals with different expertise, and their works have been exhibited internationally. Their research took a specific direction a few years ago with the project SenseWare, and it's a collection of smart clothing embedding therapies that are applied to sensory processing disorders. And they've developed this with the support of therapists and assisting people affected with autism. So SenseWare is a winner of multiple different awards, and it's an initiative that has culminated in the establishment of a startup called WitSense. WitSense designs and manufactures sensible, innovative products and services with high technological content, such as sensory objects and tools, design elements with people with or without disabilities, and aiming at the improvement of their life. So SenseWare has recently been selected for Starts in Motion, which is one of our other programs for 2021. So I'll turn it over to Emanuela and Ivan to talk about their future directions and what kinds of collaborative approaches they've been taking. Over to you folks. And
Hi.
Hello.
will enable you to, no, the host, maybe Lucy can enable you to share your screen in case you would like to do that.
Yeah, we have a presentation.
Thank you.
Have you got that option at the moment?
I don't.
No, we are disabled at the moment.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Okay.
We will investigate. So maybe you should talk to us, and then we will investigate behind the scenes to get it working for you.
Spotlighted you, so hopefully that will work.
Yeah, I'm Ivan, and she is Emma. We are partner in life and business, and we are with Sense. And yeah, just a few seconds. We have a few slides. In order to speak about the future, I think that we need to look a little bit back to our work, which was developed before the pandemic, since some of the feature and functionality that we were working on became even more meaningful after confronting with the lockdown. So yeah, we have a few slides we would like to share with you. And we had this share screen option, but there's no,
Oh, no,
now
now we have the
now we
option.
have it.
Okay, great.
Okay, so yeah, just looking back at this, the beginning of this project, which is Senseware. We were developing this functionality, and they became even more meaningful, as I said, after confronting with the lockdown. At WithSense, we do sensible innovation. So we aim beyond data collection, creating an ecosystem of interconnected wearables, which can help people with sensory issues to soothe their anxieties. That means also to provide their carer and therapist with tools that can help them to understand the mood of the wearer. So we also want to help families of nonverbal kids to ease communication with them and monitor their kids' life data remotely. So looking at the future challenges, like we talk every day about telemedicine, which become essential in our lives. So this functionality, which initially was secondary to our focus, now is becoming one of the main features of our work. And we start from the healthcare domain to move to the health conscious consumer, but our work with the therapist and the families is essential at this stage to validate our product functionalities. So right now we are focusing a lot on one of those elements which were developed in our collection. It's a smart charm, and we are pitching it to several platforms to develop it further. It's a kind of integrated communication wearable charms that combine educational games and visual stress level. Wow.
And as Camille mentioned, Sensor have been selected by STARTSEU Motion, so we'll be working in the coming months on the business side of the project. But now to speak about the future, actually, during the last year, we have been participating into another project, another STARTS project, which is Reframe, which in our opinion gave us a lot of insights and ideas on how to develop even the sensor further. So we'll just have a small introduction of that project, which is still a product that works with the senses. Is an underwear that helps movement impaired people to explore their own bodies through soft robotics with an interface that is a pillow. So controlling the pillow, you can actually activate the underwear. The project was part of Reframe, and it was in the middle of the pandemic, actually. And within that time, we really understood that probably, again, it becomes more meaningful in this time because, you know, people are segregated or we are far away from each other. So it's not a replacement of a human contact, but it can support relationship as well. It has been a very complex project. The project involved a sequence of professionals, material, electrical, mechanical, and biomedical engineers. And one important part of the project was the micro-integration. So imagine this underwear with a lot of components, pipes, soft components that can inflate and create pressure on the body of the wearer. These components have been developed within the Reframe project at the Fraunhofer Institute. And of course, we believe that this could benefit even the sensor. We have some inflatable components even in the system, in the sensor system. So we are definitely going to explore that further. And hopefully we are going to continue our collaboration with Fraunhofer, where we were producing and testing the textile for these elements. But before to reach before to be able to do the real prototype, there was the lockdown, so there was no way to access the labs. So in order not to waste time, we had to proceed with the sort of virtual prototyping, with virtual prototype. And we realized that this helped us cutting the time and the cost of the prototyping. So we are definitely going to use virtual prototyping in the near future for other projects. The same with the virtual models. Everything is going digital. So the prototype itself, okay, to display it through an online platform is not that easy sometimes. And somehow we believe that the digital version can emphasize some aspects of the prototypes that virtually the real prototype, the physical prototype is not really easy to visualize.
And yeah, as a closure note, we would like to say that definitely the future has a very good, has a very positive impact on our work, because our remote collaboration with other professionals, it's going to speed up a lot our processes, which before were on-person kind of contact, which are amazing. But nowadays we need to work remotely, and that would increase a lot of and will cut a lot of time and cost in prototyping and in manufacturing as well, our product, which will become much more reliable and much more feasible. And so that's became a great opportunity for us to increase our potential in collaboration and in proficiency of our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we are here. We're ready for any question or any kind of curiosity that you might have about our projects.
Yeah, it's really lovely work. Yeah, let's take 5 minutes and take some questions from people and see what people have to say or what thoughts you have on this project. Anyone? You can put your hands up, or you can just open your mic and ask some questions. No one? Everyone's dumbfounded. Okay, well, if you do have questions, you can also put them in the chat, or you can come back to this later. That's all fine. Yeah, it would be great though if we do have some time for questions. Oh, somebody has perked up. Great.
This is Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, coming from NTNU in Trondheim. Your sensors, I suppose they also gather data, and I didn't quite get it, but in the sensor system, do you use the data in some kind of a narrative way to create a story for either the one wearing them or the one actually analyzing and using this sensor data?
Yeah, we analyze the data in order to understand the stress level of the wearer. So in that case, the therapist and the family and the carer, they can understand the nonverbal communication, which is translated into a color coding kind of visual clue. And
well, being alerted doesn't mean that you can avoid the meltdown in case the child is having an overload of senses and is going to have a meltdown, but at least you can detect that is going to happen. So you can adapt some strategies in order to help the patients or the wearer.
And some of the garments and accessories of the collection will trigger some functionalities and will deliver some sensory therapies to the wearer. For example, pressure therapy. So one jacket, it's an inflatable jacket, which will inflate and generate a light pressure on the body with a calming effect.
Is this in a way automated and learning as you go on, or has to be therapist controlled?
Yeah, right now there are some values which are detected from the monitoring system, and once the value reach a certain level, and the combination of value of the breath rate, the heart rate, and the movement of the wearer reach a certain condition, the therapist can determine the actuation of some of those functionalities. But of course, in our aim is to implement a sort of machine learning technique which will understand the different needs of each different patient, because each patient is different from each other, and they would understand what kind of functionality should be triggered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. But actually, that's a great idea. So use data for in a narrative way, and I think that would be part of our next project is Smart Chart, where which will ease communication between the user and the therapist and the family. So in that case, definitely the data would be used in a more narrative way, because they will have to be translated in a communication and into language. So that will impact the way we perceive messages coming from our live data, and how those messages interact with the with the narrative, with what the wearer want to say and what to communicate.
I think that's a good idea, because this is in a way an instantiation of an interactive digital narrative, which is very much used for complexity representation. And I assume this is a very complex problem, since the communication is complex in itself. So I think having a narrative approach to it and an approach to the data might be very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for this suggestion. That's great.
Yeah, fab. Anyone else have anything you want to add or ask or say or contribute in any way around the SenseWare project, or questions, of course? No? Silence? Okay. So maybe, yeah, go ahead. Says Sylvain. Yeah.
So hello, I'm Sylvain from France. I was just thinking maybe for your device could be useful for disabled people, maybe as well, to send them messages through vibrations or waves like this. I don't know if you thought about it already, but
yeah, we actually focusing on people of in the spectrum, in the autistic spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and we're validating our product through some tests we do with therapists and families. But we also want to create an inclusive kind of system, which could be used for people, by people, normotypical people without any disabilities, because nowadays everybody has to cope with stress and anxiety and panic attack, and these are some of the symptoms of autism and disability, and we all suffer from this kind of thing. Also, you have to consider that every one of us has a little degree of disability, you know. At any point of your life, you would every one of us would suffer also from a temporary kind of disability, and this kind of tool could help us to live a more comfortable and more like stress-free kind of life. And this is our aim.
nice.
Thank you.
Brilliant. One more? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to our next speaker, Maria. Oh, Maria, you might have to pronounce your last name for me.
Yeah, it's
Maria is an industrial designer and a production designer, and she's at the Straczynski Academy of Fine Arts, or she is an alumni of the Academy of Fine Arts, and currently a master's student in design school, Kolding. She's currently working in innovation design, Industry 4.0, and design for social sustainability. As a production designer, she has worked with students from the National Film School in Lodz, as well as created sets and designed costumes for multiple commercials, festivals, and traveling short films, music videos for artists from Poland, Ireland, and Denmark. She's passionate about art and science. She creates in the field of critical design, speculative design, and provoking discussions around social frictions, language, semantics, human perception, sustainability, as well as developing futures in space exploration and synesthetic design. Wow, that's really interesting, Maria. So jump in and tell us what you're working on and what you're thinking about for the future.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I will also share my screen. If you can see, my name is Maria. My last name is pronounced Jędryszek. I am from Poland. Yeah, I'm 23 and I'm a current master's student at Design School Kolding in Denmark. I have been working in both industrial design and production design for about almost 5 years now, and critical design and speculative design have been always something that interested me, and I have been working in that for about 2 years, doing some installations and some pieces. And right now I'm in the middle of doing my master thesis, in which I wanted to combine the areas of science and art and also social design while looking into future scenarios. So I wanted to discover how speculations and design, seemingly so distant from our reality and applicability, can actually be emotionally palpable for our day-to-day life. So I'm still gathering information and insights and getting collaborations, which I will speak about just in a second. And I hope to get some maybe feedback from you, some insights, literature suggestions, or maybe find some expertise in the fields that I am working on right now. Because in very, very much short, I have been exploring our future space travels, investigating mainly analog environments, so environments that we can find on Earth but have some similarities as environments in space. And since we have been exploring space for 60 years now, we've learned so much also about life on Earth itself. And that is something that I really wanted to use in my project, especially considering our current pandemic situation, where suddenly people have found themselves living in kind of an extreme environment. So I started looking into what are the similarities and actually found quite a few. But I decided to focus on two main ones, which I found, which would be isolation and sense deprivation. So it's also really interesting about the previous presentation that we had about senses. When it comes to some differences, of course, like we know that people who work in analog environments and astronauts, they're prepared for their isolation and for the extreme environments. They're prepared, they're trained, and they know what they're going into. Whereas in our situation, we don't know how much longer we'll have to live with the pandemic, and will it go back to normal ever? Since we know that there's been a lot of studies about how isolation affects our well-being in both physical and psychological health, and how sensory stimulation affects emotional behavior and well-being, I wanted to look into how can synesthetic design improve well-being in these extreme environments? Which basically leads into my research question, which I'm looking into right now. And when it comes to the future, apart from now talking to people who have experienced isolation and analog environments and collecting a lot of more and more literature reviews and gathering knowledge, I wanted to experience that space isolation myself and explore this sensory deprivation and look into how can we use this this sensory stimulation for well-being, and how does it even affect us. So I wanted to go into this simulation habitat in Poland. It's called Lunaris Research Station, and I wanted to go for 2 weeks and just do some investigate in how will I be affected by isolation by living in this space simulation, and perform some experiments where I'd look into how senses affect our well-being in isolation, look into memory and how it affects our emotional well-being, but also perception, since in these analog environments, for example, we don't have much sunlight, but only artificial lighting. So how can we, for example, use sensory substitution or sensory addition to expand our Umwelt and to experience our world in a little bit of a different way, and then maybe just create some sensory memory capsules and eventually bring our homes and our memories and what we find so comforting and safe into our future travel. And while I'd hopefully be able to collect and generate some data from that, I hope to create a speculative design piece that would engage the audience and provoke curiosity, spark up a discussion about our future space travels and how can we bring our earthly memories and earthly homes into the far, far away. And yeah, that would be it. If you have any insights, any comments, or anything, I'd very much would be glad to hear what you
Interesting
think.
ideas. Thanks, Maria. Yeah, fab. So do people have some thoughts for Maria, some feedback or some insights that you can provide her, share with her?
Just just a curiosity, because in one of your slides it was written sensory deprivation, but
Yeah.
was that meant to be there, or was just a misspelling, or a kind of word games between deprivation and deprivation?
I think that was might be a spelling mistake that I omitted.
But that's a great one.
Yeah.
So you maybe suggest, Ivan, that maybe she'd also look into deprivation or depravation. Anyone else have anything else you want to suggest or have thoughts or questions about this?
I have a quick comment. This reminded me very much of the work of, I think, 2 other STARTS community members. Dr. Nelly Benayoun, she was on one of these meetings here, and I think Martine Nicole Rogina, based in Munich, she's also working on this topic. And one thing I would personally be very interested is, I'm a bit jealous that you will be making such a exciting experience there. And I would be maybe even more interested in the experiences once you go back to the Earth, how differently you can perceive the world after being in space for such a long time. That's my
comment. I'd be also interested if you could write the people that have been doing similar projects. I'd love to see what they've been doing as well.
I put the name in the chat here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, I haven't experienced it yet, but from what I know, from what I've heard of people who have been in space or in analog environments, that suddenly after a long time of not having the senses, you suddenly experience the world so much more, and all your senses are much more intense. I think that could be really interesting and exciting.
Brilliant. Anyone else have any comments or feedback or thoughts, questions? We have a lot of people listening in the background, I can see. Hopefully you have some thoughts, maybe put them in the chat. Or yeah, those are great suggestions. Thank you, Max. Without, I guess, or maybe to make the segue, since Max gave his suggestions, maybe it's time for Max to speak himself. I'll just give you a brief introduction. Max Harich, is that correct?
Harich, yes.
Okay. Max is a conceptual artist, ethicist, and researcher. He has studied communication science at RWTH Aachen in Germany, and critical thinking at the University of the Underground, which we've had Nelly come and speak to us from. After his studies, he researched artificial superintelligence at the RWTH Aachen, and later worked as a manager for communications. Sorry, I got that wrong. Manager communications for Europe's leading startup center before he quit his job to found the Munich embassy of the Lithuanian Artist Republic. I don't know how to say that, Max.
So many hard words. Very sorry for that.
The embassy builds bridges between arts and tech and has been awarded a place of the future for the culture and creative industries by the German federal government. It has cooperated with the international partners like the United Nations, Harvard University, 01, and Ars Electronica. Max is also a lecturer for the University of the Underground and director, you'll have to say that again, the University's Institute for Applied Paradox. Okay, over to you, Max.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll quickly try to share my screen, and without the sound, you should be able to see my screen right now, and I will switch to full mode.
Yeah.
Is there something blocking something here?
No, it looks fine.
No, we can see.
Okay, fine. Okay, and I see that I'm on the last slide. Okay, a second. So the project that I present, it's very early stage, and the ideas, it's just very early ideas where it could go to. It would be great if you had ideas to help me, but it's also equally fine if you say, Max, just leave it. It makes no sense. So it's totally fine for me. Okay, so just the idea, what is the future I'm expecting? So I'm expecting that on the one hand side, the digital world will become more real. We see this with these robot dogs running around in Singapore. This is, to my mind, this is just embodied algorithms running around and trying to enforce the rules that they are programmed for. On the other hand side, the opposite direction, the real is becoming more digital. There are people going into virtual reality. Everybody, the big tech company is getting crazy about the metaverse and trying to sell us real estate in Decentraland for thousands of euros. You can buy some of these beautiful pixels. And I will give some example project from the non-fungible token market, which is totally mad and exploding right now, and also give my opinion on that. Okay, so the first idea with regard to embodied algorithms. Maybe some of you have heard of Clever Hans. Clever Hans was a horse that actually existed about 110 years ago. And this horse was really a clever horse because it could look at you, look at your face, and it could notice that you were thinking of a special number. For example, if you were thinking of the number 84, the horse would look at you and start stomping with its foot 84 times and then stop, which was totally amazing back then. Nobody knew how the horse was doing this. People expected the horse, because it had such big ears that it could listen to the sound of your brain while working and calculating these numbers. But in fact, what this horse was doing, it was just checking the tension in your face rising while it was stomping. And it just realized if it would stop at the right moment, it would get a carrot as a reward after use. So it just took some nonsense proxy to actually guess what was on your mind. And this is what the horse did 100 years ago is what algorithms can do today. We have cameras everywhere, and they can be used to penetrate your most private sphere, the only place that you have for yourself, which is your mind. And this is capable with algorithms right now. And we have the EU heavily investing in eye border control, which is a lie detection tool used by Frontex everywhere. In Vienna, they are using much more facial recognition software. And this is something that could come in the future. And we just wanted to make an installation that shows this potential. And we came up with this horse installation where you see this small camera at the side and this animated horse that we produced at Baltan Laboratories in order to let people play around with the algorithm skill to detect what's on your mind. And what the skill is actually, what the algorithm is actually looking for is a very, very subtle movement of your head, which we are just trying. This is the phase where we're right now, just trying to figure out how we can detect this movement of your head. We need some AI programmer to find this more accurate, because now we are working with an accuracy of maybe 5 centimeters, and we need to go down to like 1 millimeter or below. But this is the original project, and we had some more ideas about it. Maybe I can show a quick prototype. This is the proof of concept. So it's still very, very messy. If you get closer, it starts stomping and counting. And if you make in this case, a very exaggerated move with your head forward and back, the horse will stop. And we just need to refine this until it can really, really read your mind or whatever. And so we're working on this. And the fun fact is we had a person on our team that said, well, you know why I joined this team? I once made a horse therapy, and I prefer horse therapy much more than human therapy. And there's a growing need for therapy at the moment because of COVID and the lockdown, and there might also be a growing need for remote horse therapy. So we just would like to check this out, and we're looking for experts in equine assisted or equine facilitated psychotherapy, and maybe a little bit funding would never be so bad. This is the first project, and then quickly the second project. Probably heard of the NFT market, non-fungible tokens, which is now you can sell digital copies as artworks. A picture that you could download anywhere is now being sold, and the first time at Christie's one of these is auctioned, and the current bid is almost $10 million. And the joke is the exact copy of this, you can go to this page and download it. You have it, but still you don't own it. It's some kind, they're messing around, and now it doesn't make a difference so much. But once people would be moving to the metaverse, this will be a huge difference. And so for me, this is totally insane, makes no sense. And I was just started playing around, and the first thing I did is, okay, you want to waste money for a lot of stuff, so I will put a single pixel on sale for 1,500 euros. I didn't sell it yet. So I thought, okay, maybe it was too cheap. And then I put another artwork for sale, which is listed for 3 trillion Ethereum coins, which is much more than there is money in the world. But you're still able to list it there on OpenSea.io. But at the same time, and long story, because I'm ambassador for the Artist Republic of Ujupis, it would be totally immoral for me to commercialize the constitution and earn trillions of Ethereum coins. So I thought I teamed up with some guys from the crypto hub from Ujupis and the digital Calnas hub and from our Munich tech community, and thought, okay, what can we do? Can we create some kind of mechanism on the blockchain that will prevent myself from becoming a crypto trillionaire once I wake up? And so we decided to issue some certificates that work like certificates that you get on the stock market. Once this work gets sold for about $1 million US, another person will get this amount immediately. I will not earn a single cent. And while doing this, we thought, hey, wait a second. Is it possible that you just created a kind of financial product on the blockchain, which does not exist? We only made a short research, and we could find at least one company making insurances. But in the long term, I mean, this blockchain movement, besides all the problems with energy consumptions, it's a movement to decentralize money and to take away the power from the banks and give it back to the people. And if people can have their own Ethereum wallets, why shouldn't they be able and allowed to create their own financial products? And for this, we would like to investigate further, and we're looking for some expertise in fintech and portfolio management on how to issue the right amount of certificates and so on. That's it from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. Now we'll stop sharing.
Wow, fun. Interesting ideas. Anybody have some things you want to share or comment? Everyone's just thinking about it.
Hello, Max. Thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Alejandro Martin, and I'm very interested that you bring to the table the critic view of the NFT market that now is booming, because I'm working now with other partners in a project in this direction, and we have this morning a discussion how we could bring to the cultural and creative sector the benefits of this speculative movement around creating and selling NFT. Yes, and I think also the action that you did, putting two awards and this big prize at work, is also a declaration of action. But perhaps my question is, how do you see we could do from the cultural and creative community to bring the benefits to the producers, the artists, the creatives, etc., and not to give another product for the speculation?
In my presentation, I focused clearly more on the negative sides of this technology. I mean, as you mentioned, the big upside of this is that you can get rid of the function of banks. For example, musical producers would not need any management that much anymore, and the big record labels, because they could just issue their music as tokens on the blockchain, like Kings of Leon just did it a few days ago. And this is a way for people to directly market your artwork without any gallery, and at least in theory. So I think the first thing that needs to be done, that everybody wants to do this right now, but there's still some technical burden. You need to get an Ethereum account, you need to buy some Ethereum coins, and you need to register to some platform. This is something that could be solved, I think, even with some online videos, because it takes you maybe half an hour to set everything up, and then you can start selling your copies of whatever you want, whether it's your digital visual artwork or music or whatever. So I think the way to go would be just to offer some videos or maybe some workshops where people would do this together.
Hi, actually, Elion Carsona, Max, we met in Vienna some time ago, so you probably don't know.
Of course I know.
A new idea around precisely art certificates that would work both for physical art, but also as an NFT on the blockchain. And so I'd be really happy to work with anyone in this group on how we can make this system work for the artists and for the community in a less speculative way. Two things that differentiate the way we want to do it. First of all, this connection between the physical art and the NFT. Secondly, we would use much cheaper, more energy efficient, i.e. ecological blockchain called Algorand that is like about 100,000 times more efficient than Ethereum's current NFTs. And third, we want to innovate also on how this can benefit some, and this goes exactly to the question before, how it can benefit some specific actors. One idea we have, for example, is, museums don't have money, so we want to do a pilot with the Museum of Mali. The idea is, some live new photographers would make pictures of the artworks. Those would be new artworks, but they would also help make the inventory of the actual museum collections and secure them on the blockchain so that they can't be stolen. And so it would be like new artists creating new artworks, but at the same time securing a cultural heritage against, robberies and, violence that can happen also when there is an economic crisis as strong as there is now in those countries.
Yeah, interesting points. Wow.
Yes, and also this morning in the conversation we had with Aalto University, we discussed about, like you say, the NFT could be also based in a real asset, and the idea how when the society was inventing the money, the paper, was always the goal in the bank to have this trust in the paper, in the money, and perhaps now the cultural sector and the art world have the opportunity to create this value that is based in a real, let's say, real or digital creation.
Thanks, Alejandro. So, some interesting conversation, and we're in a brave new world at the moment on in this area. I was
Terry's
watching
got
some. Oh, great! Go.
Sorry, no, carry on. But Terry's got a question more when you finished.
Oh, I was just going to say I saw this whole exchange on Twitter about people talking about, is crypto art really art, and a lot of and most of the people who are making the comment were people I know who are artists who are kind of wanting to chime in on this, and so it's a very topical moment, and we'll see where the chips fall, as they say, or where things go. But it's really, really interesting, and interesting ideas, Max, that you've started this conversation. So fabulous. And so go ahead, Terry. Terry, you still there somewhere?
Terry is muted at the moment.
Oh, Terry, we can't hear you.
Hold
There
on.
you are.
Hello. I just wanted to say that coincidentally, in the Guardian this morning, there was an article on this subject. Now, I'm certainly not going to quote it because I actually haven't had time to read it yet, but it's in front of me now. And it says, would you pay $600,000 for this cat? That's how it starts. But I can tell, it's a 2-page article. There's a lot of good stuff in it. And so and I'm sure it'll be online, you don't have to buy the paper. It might be worth remembering that in today's Guardian and in the arts section, you can find a very relevant article which mentions many of the aspects that you've already touched on. Thanks, Max, for starting it.
Yeah, great. Good. Some. I think you're on the right road there, Max. I think it's people are really
totally
interested
wrong.
in where
We will
this
see.
Yeah. Great. Any other thoughts on this, or anything else you want to say about this, Max?
You mean me? Should I add something?
I was just saying if there's anything else you wanted to comment or say.
No, nothing to add right now. But I think what Elia mentioned is this horrible carbon footprint. This is the most important thing to solve. And I mean, there are a lot of arguments about, well, I mean, art in general and money in general produces a lot of carbon, but well, it's not necessary to add to this.
Oh yes, that was another part of this Twitter argument. If it was the whole carbon footprint, and there was somebody, I didn't follow it up because I didn't have time, but somebody saying, no, there's ways you can do this without having a carbon footprint, and I didn't have time to follow it up, but I'd be really curious to find out what that solution is, because I agree with you. I think that's the biggest issue at the moment, besides the bad art. So, well, we've got a little bit of time. Does anybody else want to talk about some future projects that they're hatching, or some ideas that you haven't even properly maybe even hatched, but you want to get some feedback on, or anything that you want to bring? I think this is the point of this, is an opportunity to talk to people all around the world simultaneously, and yet sort of throw some ideas out there and get some feedback. I think we're a safe community. I would like to say that we're a safe community.
Yeah. Just noticed, Terry, did you have something to follow up with? You've got your hand up again.
It might be legacy hand. No, there's no reply, so I think it's legacy. So anyone else want to talk about anything that they're working on or thinking, hatching? Steve, how are you naming yourself there?
That's the company is Advanced Software. We spoke about it well, yeah.
Right.
So
did you want to talk?
Yeah, so to try and tie into the conversation you've had going, I don't know this group, so this is hi. I'm Steve. I run a company called Advanced Software, and for the last 20 years, this is my claim to fame, I've been inventing the 3D web. Now, earlier you guys were talking about Decentraland, so you know a little bit about this area. The key difference between what we're doing and Decentraland is you don't have to buy land on the 3D web. We've got a 3D website. You guys can have 3D websites. Anybody can, just like on the regular HTML web. So you don't have to buy anything from us whatsoever. So that's the kind of the altruistic angle to it. Obviously, being a company, we're trying to make money from this as well. In order to access this, you need a 3D web browser. And right now, using our technology, which I've put a link in the comments to some of our current work, we're the only provider of this technology, and hopefully we can use that to generate a business out of this. There's a completely creative, artistic side to this, which is using this technology, which we're trying to push. What can the rest of you do with it? You know what you can do with Decentraland, you know what you can do with Minecraft, you know what you can do with Unreal and Unity and all the rest of them. We've got some serious competition out there, because if we start having a serious conversation, the first thing somebody who's going to speak frankly is going to say is, why do I want to use what you've got instead of what Unity's got, or what Unreal's got? Because if you're not as good, I'm wasting my time, right? That's a difficult question to answer, because those two are both multi-billion-dollar companies. They've got huge amounts of resources, and their key development teams are super sharp. And so to capture your serious attention, I've really got to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And we've tried pushing this before, and I've got nowhere, because basically you hit that wall, which is you've got to be as good or better than Unity and Unreal. So I've spent the last 6 to 9 months trying to address that question. And where real-time computer graphics is going is ray tracing. The old way we used to do these things in video games was to draw triangles. And you can do some clever tricks with drawing triangles to try and get some of the effects you want. But sooner or later, you hit this brick wall, which is, there's all kinds of various things that you just can't do properly. And you've got to ray trace to do things properly. The problem is ray tracing is very computationally expensive. And for virtual reality, we've got to kick around 90 frames a second to stop people getting motion sickness. So for this to work out, we've got to be able to ray trace really, really, really fast and really high quality. I spent the last, let's say, 6 to 9 months working on a system that hopefully can beat the other guys. Now, whether it does or not is going to be for the rest of the world to determine. But I reckon when we're in with the shop now. I've put some examples of our current ray trace tech up on our YouTube channel, and those will be updated there and on Twitter and indeed on the 3D web itself regularly. It's very, very, very early with our new tech. Our first generation ray tracer does really simple things, but it does them really fast. And that's a good start, because like all of this technology, you need to have the foundations right to be able to build above it. I think I should stop there, and you guys can see what we're doing. And if you're interested, we can talk further and we can give you access to the tech and figure out how we're going to work with each other. You know, if Unity and Unreal do what you want better, well, that's just the way it goes.
So, but what you're doing is you're offering up to a number of artists and other technologists to have a look and have a play. Is that what you're, and possibly collaborate in some way?
Right. I think with all of these things, there's always a barrier to entry. And the first barrier to entry is I'm already familiar with some other technology. And so it's always easier to use what you've already got than something else. And so for us to, again, even if we've got better tech, which is a huge claim, I'm not even sure we do. I know it's good, but how good it is, we'll have to see. The only way that we're in with a fighting chance is to have a lost lead. Effectively, let everybody, not just you guys, let the entire world use our technology for free. And when I say we, I'm using the corporate we here. Basically, I'm doing the entire thing right now. And so I'm already swamped with technical work. By the time we give this technology out to the world plus dog, and I have to deal with all the tech support of all of that. Like I say, I'm already swamped. So we'll have to see. The best chance of success is to give the technology away to everyone for free. Like with everything else, over a period of time, we'll then transition into a corporate mode if it goes well, and it won't continue to be free. We'll switch into a standard model with colleges and universities where you have educational licenses, the same as you do with Autodesk and similar. We'll keep going as long as we can, and if it doesn't pan out, well, that's just the way it goes, right?
Some thoughts from anyone in the group? Any thoughts on this, or suggestions, or anything you want to share? Do you want to just get in there and look at it? What are your thoughts?
That's good.
People are shy to say. Well, I mean, I think it's nice that you've provided that, and we can share that in the notes. And it could be that, I mean, one thought I had for you actually was that maybe you put a little blurb about it, and maybe, well, actually, this might work better. You go onto the STARTS website, make a little blog post, register yourself as a participant, and then make a little blog posts, and we can help, you know, say here's some software, Steve would like some collaborators or some testers or artists to come up with things to do in there, and see what happens. That's a possibility.
That would all be very much appreciated. Thanks.
Yeah, fab. I mean, I can hear what you're saying. Like I'm barely just about struggling along in Unity, and I've had some introduction to Unreal Engine, and I think those what you're talking about, the barriers to entry, can be the difference between people engaging fully or working with others. Or...
Right, and it's also as we're pitching this as a web technology, we have to make this as easy to use, not just for artists, but for ordinary people. So, for example, you can go onto your Facebook or Twitter or whatever and just go, you know, post whatever you want. We need to try and make it, 3D is more complicated, and there's no getting away from that. But the idea is to try and make it as easy as possible for ordinary people to maybe not create their own pieces, but to go, oh, I want to put a cat up, or, you know, I want to put up a 3D thing of what I had for dinner, or I don't know what. But and this can already be kind of done in Minecraft. Yeah, we have kids building cities in Minecraft.
Yeah, I have a further question to that actually. Is it that you bring in 3D assets, or do you make things in it and then you, like Minecraft, I suppose, or is it closer to Unity or Unreal Engine, or is it like a games engine, or is it more of like a 3D software?
It started off as we'd author everything in 3D Studio Max.
Okay.
Which is not cheap.
Yeah.
And so that limited the audience severely.
Mm-hmm.
We've now got content creation in Blender, which is free.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody who's got the technical and artistic skills can create content.
Mm-hmm.
We've now gone a stage further, and we've got our own layout tool in the browser itself, so that anybody, without even leaving the browser, can move content around, tweak materials, change the text in a ticker, invite friends, and so on. So we're kind of trying to blur the line between these different technologies.
And do you have a VR aspect to it, because that's growing as well?
We did. Well, the previous version of the technology worked in DirectX 11, and we had Oculus support and any OpenVR headset support there. And then I upgraded the engine to DirectX 12 to do all this ray trace stuff, and adding VR back in is on my to-do list.
Great. Well, I mean, it sounds like something that you could put out there and just ask artists to play with and see what happens. So I think that's worth having a little post on our community pages, and we'll invite people to play with your software. And if anybody wants to contribute further or to help you develop it further, then we'll see where that goes. And that's open for everyone. You know, if you want to collaborate with other people and you want to find certain kinds of people, or you just want to put something out there, do register on the portal and make a little posting about what you're looking for, and we'll try to promote that and get other people to connect with you. So that's part of our job, is to try to bring people together in some way. So definitely I put that out to all of you. Have a think about who you might want to work with if you haven't started working with somebody yet, or new people you might want to work with, and hopefully we can help facilitate that process. We're not exactly a matchmaking service, but we hope to help facilitate the process of bringing people together and helping people connect.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, well, I don't know. I think we've run out of stuff to say, unless anybody else wants to say anything. Going once, going twice.
I think Terry
well,
does.
great, thank you.
Terry, sorry, Terry.
Oh, Terry has something to say. Fab. You're muted again.
Hold on. You should hear me now. Good. Camille, what you're saying there, I think is very valuable. I was just going to give instances of how important it is that you can just mention almost in an offhand way, I'm looking for this. And if you're in the right context, or if you're with the right group of people, something will happen that immediately leads you in the right direction. Because I remember not this year, not even last year, because of course we've lost a whole year because of the pandemic, but I was at an EVA conference in London. And for those of you who don't know, EVA means Electronic Visualization and the Arts. And it's an organization that puts on conferences around the world. And I was at one of these in London. And I'd just been to an exhibition at the Barbican. If you remember, there was a big exhibition on AI at the Barbican in London. And I'd become really possessed with the idea of deep dream technology. I wanted to be able to deep dream like the Russian could, who worked for Google, who invented it. And obviously, I couldn't learn this by going to the Barbican exhibition and just expecting that I could have time to do it. But talking to people at EVA, and in particular a musician, a fellow musician, I just mentioned it. And although she was engaged in music, as I am, she said, I've got a clue about all this. And she told me exactly where to start my search to be able to become adept at deep dreaming. And I used it at last year on a piece of visual music very successfully. And I won't go into details, but the point I'm making, Camille, is these contacts which you're pointing, which were very much evident in the meeting here, and they do occur obviously in real-time conferences, as we all know so well, is really the way that most projects seem to proceed at the moment. It's often through the, shall we say, the informal approaches to a solution problem, rather than the formal, shall we say, academic approach that produces really interesting results. You don't have to agree with that. That's just my personal view.
Well, it reminds me of what a professor of mine said years ago,
Yeah.
is that all the real learning happens in the pub.
It's that sort of thing. It's
I feel like that's the same when you bring people together. Maybe it's not the conference, or maybe it's not the formal things that happen where you know, connections happen, but it's the social engagement and that's what we've been trying to our best to do, is to keep that connection with everyone.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Obviously, in this last year, we've all been missing that.
Yeah.
And Zooming doesn't normally make up for it.
No. But you know, it's a thread. It's not the whole cloth, but it's a thread.
Exactly.
All right, so fabulous for to have all of you and such great projects and interesting ideas, and I hope some connections happen between you and that you follow up. There was a few already with some of the speakers, but don't think that because you didn't speak you can't connect. I think just go for it. And we often keep a list of who's signed up, so if there's somebody you wanted to connect with that you didn't remember their name, or you just want to connect with everybody in the group, just get in touch with Lucy and we can connect you with whoever was here today. Yeah? All right, thanks so much everyone, and have a good rest of your evening, and we hope to see you in the future, and maybe even not too distant future, somehow in the flesh.
Okay.
All right, see you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.